Good to see everybody, and thank you for taking the time. As the slide says, I am Chris Sullivan. I'm responsible for the worldwide systems integrator business at AWS. So my team supports our consulting partnerships, our resale partnerships, our distribution partnerships on a global basis. So we have the really fun and exciting opportunity to engage with many or all of you, depending on what your relationship is with AWS, to help you drive your business in support of our joint customers. So we love the work that we do, and we're excited to share some ideas with you today around co-selling with AWS. I'll be joined on stage in a little bit by Vittorio Sanvito. Vittorio and I are teammates. Vittorio runs the EMEA partner business in my organization, and Chris Cagnazzi from Presidio. Presidio is a longtime partner of AWS. And he's going to share some best practices and some ideas, and hopefully we have some time to take some questions as well about what Presidio has done and how they've truly transformed their partnership with us over the last couple of years. So those gentlemen will join us a little bit later on in the discussion. Our agenda today, all right, green button go. We'll touch on co-selling. We have some best practices, AWS co-selling best practices, so both sides of the equation here. Like I said, Vittorio and Chris will come up and talk about co-selling and their experience. And then we have some resources and some tools and programs that I want to highlight towards the end of the conversation. And then, as always, a call to action. What you'll find in this discussion is I'm a very transparent person, so even in a large audience at a really big event, I will continue to be transparent. Some of the things that make AWS unique, and some of the things that quite honestly have made us very successful, make at times the co-selling expertise or opportunity with us a little bit challenging to manage. So my conversation with you today, I will try to provide actual implementable guidance in every way possible, and not necessarily glaze over some of the things that can be a little bit more challenging. The first message is, and this is a message from our CEO, Adam Slipsky. If you've been following the press and media over the last couple of days, you saw the article that came out yesterday that featured Adam, my boss, Ruba Borno, as well as actually Chris was quoted in that article, and a number of other partners talking about the growth and the momentum and the commitment of AWS to our partner business. And I can tell you, as I've been here about 2.5 years, the continuous evolution of AWS's business model to be more and more engaging, more and more open, and more supportive of having partners play a significantly larger role in our overall business is a committed and intentional principle of the way that our organization intends to move forward in support of our customers. And then there was another article today where last night a reporter spent some time at our partner awards event and touched base with a number of partner leaders and executives, and that person found this overwhelming positivity, momentum, and continued success for our partners. And so that article was published today as well. So not only has Adam stated publicly his commitment, but we're seeing continued growth and acceleration. I have quite an honor actually to travel the globe and engage with partner leadership all over the world, and the continuous prioritization from those partners is, how do I do more? How do I go faster? How do I expand? Those are the types of conversations that we're all fortunate enough to have based on participating in the cloud economy. So a really exciting time to be doing this type of work, regardless of what your capacity is in our ecosystem or working directly with us. So this slide is just a kind of a summarization of some of the progress. So we're actually in our 10th year of the AWS Partner Network. So we celebrated that a little bit earlier in the year from a formal date perspective, but we've basically been around doing the partner side of our business for only 10 years, which is really incredible when you think about it. So we are, an $80 billion run rate business in our partner network, and the capacity, the tooling, the systems, the programs, quite honestly, our organization, right? When we launched in 2012, I think there were about 28 or so people in our partner organization, right? It's really an incredible growth strategy and story. But what I love about it and why it's really important for me to participate in this business today is, as I mentioned earlier, the continuous transition of AWS's go-to-market model, our innovation cycles, and the way we think about supporting our customers on a worldwide basis is in the intentionality towards partnering is demonstrated by a lot of the things that you see from a programmatic perspective, right? So we had 8,000 partners in our first year. We have well over 100,000 partners now. I think in my business is over 80,000 partners. So it's really incredible, the growth and the opportunity. And this conversation is really meant to help not only kind of harness some of the programmatic themes that are here, but really talk about what it means and how our organizations, in particular our sales organizations, view the opportunity in the co-sell mechanism, right? What does that mean to them? What do they prioritize? And what are they looking to learn or contribute in that exchange of value in support of our customers? So that's what we'll spend a lot of our time on. So jumping into some best practices, this is something that when we say customer obsession, that is obviously one of our leadership principles, those of you that know us well. And it orients all of our team members on what is the right thing to do with each and every decision we make. So our sales organizations will always orient towards presenting options and value to customers and allowing the customer to guide the decision-making process as to what tools, what services, what partnerships that they value in their business and that they need to help them either transform, to migrate, or to modernize workloads in support of their business outcomes. So this really is a lot more than a talk track for us. Customer obsession is we evaluate ourselves on it, we evaluate our partnerships on it, we evaluate potential team members joining our business on it. It is really a foundational element as to how we work. And I share that with you just so that when you're engaging with our teams, you have that thought process in mind, right? We work backwards, right? We love to say that we work backwards, but that is truly how our teams will orient. They will engage with a customer. They want to understand what that customer's goals are from a business perspective, from a technical perspective, and then they will begin at that point the solutioning effort in building back or working backwards to ensure that they have the right partnerships, the right solutions, the right services lined up in support of that customer's business outcomes. The next piece, and it's funny, I've had this conversation a couple of times over the last 2 days in some of the meetings I've had, but the brand of your company, and quite honestly, your personal brand as well, it's critically important. We have a lot of different partnerships at different phases of their development. And when I talk to partners that are beginning or they've built some capacity, maybe they've achieved competencies, they've achieved some specializations, they've started to kind of put together their plan, or they're starting to engage with us maybe in a different capacity than they historically have, the brand side of their relationship with us is critically important. And it's something that I often tell partners there's not an easy button for their relationship with us, especially from a co-selling and a go-to-market perspective. And I'm not suggesting that that's a good thing, but in total transparency, it is difficult. And it takes a concerted and continuous effort, right? I like to think of it like, just you're beginning a journey that you're not ever actually going to finish. It's just part of how the best partnerships that we have, how they work and approach us, because we are a really big organization, and there are a number of different organizations and teams that function within us in order to optimize our partners' ability to be successful in support of their customers, understanding who we are, understanding the roles, the responsibilities, and how that all works together, and then applying some resources, some energy to activate those relationships on behalf of yourself and your customers is a worthwhile exercise. And I don't think there's, actually I'm quite confident, there isn't a shorter way to do it other than engaging and doing that work and building that trust. The interlock with AWS sales, I'm gonna skip this one a little bit just because I have a couple of slides that will show you the roles and the responsibilities, and we can kind of talk through where in the organization you would want to make sure that once you've identified a customer, an opportunity, or you want to prospect and enter a new market, enter a new country, enter a new business, whatever it might be, that you understand the roles, what their responsibilities are, so that you can engage with those team members and ensure that they are aware of what you're looking to do, what your customer outcome is that you're beginning to drive, as we talked about from a working backwards perspective. But you really need to kind of understand the landscape from an AWS perspective. And again, I'm almost apologetic about this because I wish it were simpler. But if I gave you a more simple answer, it would be disingenuous because these roles and responsibilities are set up the way they are, and I'd rather have you know exactly how to go about it and activate the right people on your behalf. The network piece of it is becoming increasingly more important, and I think about this in the construct of whether you're a systems integrator or an ISV or a GSI or a solution provider who's focused on resale. There are going to be a lot of partners and opportunities for you to build a network to support your customer and to ensure that the broadest value proposition is available and being applied to that engagement. The reason I say that is because, most customers today don't buy one of our services, a building block, at a time and then go work on that singular service to drive a business outcome, right? It may take an ISV partnership to surround that offering or that service from a security perspective. They might need systems integration capability if you're providing more of an SPP or a resale engagement or function or support to that customer. So identifying the network and being really good at that. And quite honestly, when I give talks to our internal sales organizations, I basically talk about the same thing, right? I want our sales teams to look at their customer base, their geography, no matter whether it's a singular customer or they're managing EMEA, for example, right? I'd like them all to look at their customers and their opportunity and identify the holistic capabilities, this holistic set of capabilities and solutions that are going to help that customer achieve the best business outcomes. And I want them to organize their work with that framework in mind and activate all of those potential resources, partnerships, and team members to make that customer ultimately more successful. Quite honestly, that's something that we have a bit of more work to do from a field perspective, but it's something that I know for a personal fact, based on the conversations and the work that I do, that we're extremely committed to that. That is how we want to work and approach our customers. But like every organization, we have things that we're working on, and we have things that we're really, really good at. The specialization piece, this one I can net out. How many of you have heard us use the term superpowers, right? We love superpowers around here. In almost every engagement that I have, especially if it's a new engagement where I'm learning about a partner or learning about their capability, I will ask them, what is your superpower? What is it that you uniquely do from a differentiated perspective that your customers love? And then I want to take that and I want to understand how we can apply that, whether it's IP, whether it's an MSP offering, whatever it is. I want to understand that deeply. I want to understand the customers that you have and how you activate customers with that superpower. And then I want to be able to map that into the value proposition that AWS and our services will offer your customer. And then we combine those two things, we package them, we structure them in a way where we can increase the value and increase the opportunity and the profitability of your business in support of those same customers and hopefully acquiring more net new customers as well. So I think that that specialization and the superpower that you bring to the table, the more clear you are on what your superpowers are and the more refined you are in your focus as to how you will build momentum leveraging them, knowing that most conversations I have, partners want to do more than they do today. They want to expand, build practices. I love all of that. But depending on where you are on the journey, especially if you're beginning or younger in your engagement with us, knowing what your superpowers are and engaging really specifically on them so that you build the customer success, which is going to be the next piece, and you have the stories to tell and you can earn trust with us in a differentiated way, that will really help you accelerate. And then the expansion into other areas becomes more natural and it becomes more accepted by the team. And then, so this is the last point, which I just kind of teed off, and that's the share your success. So I had a conversation today with a partner who, they're working towards some competencies, and the challenge for them has been around their customers wanting to be publicly, in support of them, right? So customer use cases and things like that. Our bar on customer success, based on the first point, which is customer obsession, is very high. So you must bring your customers. Your customers must come with you and support you in your journey in a public way in order for AWS and our teams, our sales teams, our support teams, our ProServe teams to feel that, hey, this organization has this capability, customers love it, customers are supporting, now we can start to build momentum from it. So really important attribute in the relationships that we have, and it also is a catalyst for continued success and expansion of your relationship with not only your customers, but hopefully our customers as well. So there's a lot of goodness that comes from that. Okay, here's an example. The metrics on this slide, and you know what's funny is, and I'm being totally honest with you, I don't know who this is. I didn't build the slide. One of my team members helped with putting some of these attributes together. And I thought it was kind of funny that I don't actually know who this is, so I'm interested to find out because the metrics are awesome. But you know, the growth, I talked about that a little bit in the opening, right? There's such an incredible opportunity. In achieving the premier status in our programmatic structure is a really significant accomplishment. It demonstrates a real commitment to AWS and the capabilities that we need to jointly bring to customers. So I love seeing that. I love seeing the revenue growth. And I could tell you that these stories and the learnings that these partners share, and Chris Cagnazzi is going to be up here in a little bit, and he can share their journey from a Presidio perspective. But it's a really important way to think about the work together in the way that we've outlined it. But there's great examples throughout this slide of the things I've touched on, right? I touched on customer obsession. That's obviously clearly evident, as well as some of the other aspects of what we talked about. But this story is not substantially unique. This is a great story and it's a great example, but we have these examples all over the world. And so this is intended to provide hopefully a bit of a cheat sheet, right? Our CEO likes to say there's no compression algorithm for experience. There really isn't, but there is a path, right? There's a path in our organization. My team in particular should be able to shepherd your organization or yourselves on that path if that's something that you're interested in doing. The network and interlock with AWS sales I touched on. So here's the slide that kind of breaks that down as far as the different resources within our organization. So on the partner side of things, you have, like, for example, my organization is PDMs. So my organization is Partner Development Managers. We are the builders, right? So we are the ones who help partners build their business model, build practices, technical enablement, sales enablement, go-to-market strategy, all the different things that help partners build their AWS business. Where we hand over to the partner sales organization, or PSMs, is at the point that an opportunity is created. Once an opportunity is created, that opportunity will move over into our partner sales organization, which sits within, in this example, I'll use as Greg Pearson's commercial sales team. So my organization does all the groundwork, all the build work, and then at the point that opportunities begin to flow into the sales organization, the partner sales organization represents sales and customers in their engagement with you, and will take that opportunity and help manage it through the rest of the sales life cycle. But there are a lot of other characters here, right? The PMSAs, those are partner management solution architects. So those are the solution architects that sit within my organization in this example, who are doing the technical build work with our partners, right? So they're again on the build side, and then the SAs in the field, they're on the customer side. And then we even have specialist SAs. So we have PSSAs, just to make sure that we have enough acronyms to make this challenging, right? You gotta lean in and do work here, otherwise it would be too easy. So the PSSAs, you think about different workloads like SAP. We have PSSAs for the SAP workload. They're specialists in running and executing SAP on AWS. So if you're building an SAP practice, this team would lean in and help you with that, right? We have a whole fleet of PSSAs that focus on our services as well. So things like whether you're doing AI or ML, or you're doing Connect practice build, or whatever it might be, you're working on Graviton, there will be PSSAs who are specialists in that technology that would support the build within your organization. And again, when it transitions to the customer side, you have field sales. So we have account managers, we have account SAs. So again, solution architects, their focus is entirely on customers. Customer solutions managers, the CSMs, as well as TAMs, technical account managers. So depending on the size of the customer, their relationship with AWS, the specific opportunity and outcomes we're driving, these different resources will be there to surround the opportunity. Now, I'm happy, depending on how we do for time here, we're going to try to take some questions. So when we get to that point, I'm happy to try to demystify this a bit. And I see people taking pictures and everything like that, which is all good, because this is the Rubik's Cube, right? This is what you have to kind of decipher. This slide is representative, and I like the title of this slide, right? The front line. So these are the people in the roles that if you are an SI partner, you fit anywhere in that realm. These are the roles that you will encounter on a daily basis in your engagement with us. It's the PDMs and PDRs, so those are the development resources that sit, in this example, in my organization, that help you with the build and the go-to-market strategy and connecting you to campaigns and things like that, and helping you build the business and build your pipeline. The PSAs, those are the specialists that we talked about that will help with the practice build. And then the PSMs, that's once the opportunity is created, the PSMs will engage to work with you and our field sales and our customers to execute that opportunity. And then the account managers who own our customer relationships at the end of the day and are ultimately responsible for the success of that customer. So the AMs are going to balance all of their customers' requirements as well as the engagement with partners in support of the customer. And like I said early on, they will do so in a customer-obsessed manner, the vast majority of the times. And so that mindset and that mental model is really important as you engage the team and articulate your plan and strategy for that particular customer. So I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, now it's time for the transition. So I'm going to step away for a few minutes. I'm going to bring up Vittorio, who I mentioned leads EMEA within my organization, and Chris Cagnazzi from Presidio, and they're going to kind of have a structured discussion for a little bit, and then we'll move into Q&A. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. What side?
Okay.
Want to flip for it?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Chris. I think I would have probably pronounced your last name slightly different than Cagnazzi. I feel there is a little bit of Italian roots into it, so I would have pronounced it Cagnazzi. So hopefully you're fine with both.
I'm fine with both. The latter is the proper name, okay. But the one we use here in the United States is Cagnazzi. So
okay, good. I feel much more comfortable with the Italian version.
Grazie.
Good. Anyway, thanks. It's really a pleasure for you to be here. For me, it's great to share the stage together and to talk a little bit about the transformation that you have done within Presidio. I think that there might be some good nuggets also to share with other partners that maybe are in the same stage of the journey or even earlier in the stage. So can you just talk a little bit about your role in Presidio and a little bit about Presidio?
Sure, okay. As Chris mentioned, I'm the SVP GM of Presidio's Cloud and Managed Services Group. Presidio is a global digital services and solution provider. We specialize in accelerating business transformation for our clients, really through a secured technology modernization, really. We have over 3,500 employees, more than 55 locations around the globe, and AWS is our preferred cloud partner.
Okay. So I think you have been working with AWS for more than 9 years. So,
that's correct.
And I think that during those years you really led your organization into a big transformation. I think that you really started in a more transactional and traditional type of business model, and you were successful and pretty rapidly, and also reached great success in transforming it into a more business outcome in the cloud. So can you tell us a little bit on the journey and how this went through it?
Sure. So I signed our partnership agreement with AWS probably about 9 years ago. Reality is it sat on the shelf for a few years because the organization wasn't ready. We really didn't understand what role we would have in the cloud world. Presidio has historically been an on-premise business. So think about building, designing infrastructures, data centers, the professional services that go along with that, the managed services and the security. That was really the core of the business. So, when we think about the transformation of such business, right, there's a lot of challenges that come into play. You think about transactional selling versus transformational selling. We have 350 or so field account managers, and the challenge on getting them to think differently and how they approach their customers and their market was really probably one of the biggest things that we faced. We set out fairly early on in the journey, and I guess it got to a point where I knew, and the executive team and we accepted the fact that we needed to change and we needed to look beyond if we wanted to continue to be relevant with our customers, and provide the types of services that we felt that we were going to be capable of doing. So in that journey cycle, there were a couple of key things that we had to really consider. One was the organization ready, right? Were we going to be able to change? Two, did we really understand what our clients' needs were? And if we didn't understand what our clients' needs were, what did we need to do to further that? So think of it as baselining your organization, really, on where you are at that point. I could go on and on. So.
Yeah, no, so I think that you call out a few things. No, I think that there is a technical aspect because, of course, the selling in the cloud is a very technical type of sales and consulting to your customers. I think that there is a business model into it, which is related, so how to transform from managing a P&L, which is typically a traditional one, so very much on deal base, into a P&L that is much more on consumption base. And then I think that there is an element, you mentioned it quickly, but I think it's something that I would like to go a little bit deeper on the people. No, I think that when we also talk about with customers that are transforming, the people aspect and the change management is very critically important. So you are running a big organization and a big company. I think that bringing the entire company together in the journey is something that it also probably gave you some challenges. So it would be interesting to understand how you were able to mobilize the entire organization.
Yeah, so I think the change management really is paramount. I mean, that's the number one lever that needs to be moved. So again, with the sellers and with the entire organization, when you think about enablement and you think about how do you change a seller, right? How do you change their thoughts on outcome solutions versus selling a singular product that might have some installation services? So what was really fortunate for us was we were able with our PDM to look at the sales team and say, what would be the baseline just to get them started? And for us, it was the cloud practitioner certification. So we made a mandate across the organization that every single seller, and when I mean seller, I mean whether they're a field seller, a solution architect, an internal seller, they were required to go through the cloud practitioner certification to get a baseline understanding of what it means to sell outcomes. And I think that was super critical in the change management. And we were fortunate that our sellers understood just that base component, that they knew that they needed to change and they needed to grow. So that did help move it. Then think about moving an entire organization, go-to-market strategies, everything that would go along with that. That was also with the help of our PDM and programs from AWS, we were able to craft a really robust training program to kind of move that cycle along. And then, from a financial component, when you think about, because I think that was the second part of your question, from a financial component, again, transactional based. You sell something, you recognize revenue. That's very different than an annuity-based, business where we historically had managed services, and we had been doing that for years, but those were more around on-prem infrastructure. So now, think about how you take your business and you grow your annuity streams and you grow that long-term value of the client, right? So when you're talking to sellers and you're talking to all the teams within your organization, you need to craft it so that they understand that there is this long-term value. It helps support how the business is going to invest and how the business is going to grow. And really, we're at a point now where 80% of our backlog is all annuity-based versus go back 3 years and it was a 180 on that, from an equipment perspective. So the organization has seen an incredible transformation around certain financial metrics, and that happens to be one of them. And what that does do is it provides a lot of opportunity for growth for our employees, which is really exciting.
Okay, nice. And I'm very glad that you mentioned the people aspect and the competencies of the people. That is something that is super critical in the world of the cloud, where people need to be competent enough. And I really like the fact that you mandate also training to all your sales organization. So this is one component. I think that Chris presented the other component, which is the AWS sales. In this nice slide with a lot of acronyms, but of course, your team is engaging with the AWS sales organization on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I know that you are also engaging with our ProServe organization, for example, and with probably most of the roles that you see there. So is there even any advice how you are engaging with the sales organization? Anything that from any other partner that is embarking in this journey you would recommend? What is the best way to get in touch and working together every day with our AWS sales organization?
Yeah. So I think the slide that Chris put up was really excellent, where it showed the organization and the partner, the customer and the partner. I think the biggest challenge that we faced that was something that I needed to kind of grasp the scale of it all, is that AWS is a very different organization than what our core partners were in the past, right? And the fact that I think I took a very prescriptive approach on understanding their ecosystem, right? Understanding how do all those lines and circles connect, and where are we positioned within that? And then how do we build a plan to understand, well, how does the PSA organization work? Who in my organization needs to align with that to build out a plan? So think of the AWS ecosystem as this tremendous asset that will help you with a lot of the programs and services that they have to help you build your business and give you guidance. So understand the ecosystem. I would say that is probably the paramount. Then understand what all those organizations do, like the PSM organization, how critical it is with the kind of building the gap between the AM, the customer, and the PSM organization, right? So we took a particular approach where we built out a mirror image of AWS's PSM organization within our organization. So it's regionalized. We have PSMs that are within each region. We map to Rachel's organization very nicely. They build out go-to-markets jointly. And it's all really about how are we going to, drive those customer transformation and those journeys in a very customer-obsessed, successful way. So the ecosystem is really important. Understand what drives the sellers, Understand, again, and Chris said it really well, don't try to boil the ocean. Pick the things that you're really good at and be focused and prescriptive on that with the selling team.
Okay, I like a lot what you said, that you are mirroring the PSM organization, because actually we create a PSM organization that is mirroring our sales organization. So I think that this creates a nice link between your sales organization and the AWS sales organization, so that there is a nice mapping that is definitely facilitate the communication. So I think that we don't miss.
Yeah, the other thing I missed out on that was the ProServe portion of that, yes. Right? So when you think of all that, the motions around ProServe and your engagement with the ProServe business unit is really important, because there are certain skills that perhaps you'll have and that you won't have within your organization as you're building it out. And partnering with ProServe, the motions that you go through when you link ProServe, the AM, the PSM, and the PSAs all together in one collaborative motion about how you're going to execute with this client and how you're going to help this client get from where they are today to where the puck is going to end up going, is really, really critical, and it is collaborative. and you're selling as this, kind of one team approach. So it's a really unique organization. So I would say connect all those dots as you're looking to build out your groups.
Yep. Thanks a lot. I think it's very useful. So I would like to touch base about something that you said quickly at the very beginning, but I'm very much interested as well from my current role, which is you said that you're operating in 55 different countries. And we see more and more a trend of a sort of a globalization of partners. And if I take my experience in EMEA, I see a lot of US-based partners that are, I always say that they are landing into Heathrow, because normally this is the first place where they are coming. They are coming to UK because it's not only geographically somehow in between US and the rest of Europe, but also culturally, and especially from the cloud maturity stage. No, so normally the partners are landing as a first step in the UK, and then they are expanding all over the places in Europe, even in the Middle East and Africa, so which is super interesting. But likewise, I see also the opposite trend. So we have plenty of partners from the UK, from Italy, from France, a lot of them from Israel, which is known to be the startup countries that are maybe expanding or would like to expand into the US. For this case, for example, going to California and the Bay Area. So this trend of globalization of the partner is a trend that is there and actually is great. Is there any advice on how AWS can help you and other partners that are in this journey to be more effective on a global basis?
Yeah, I think, there definitely is. I mean, as we started to expand globally, we were, I was really focused on how do we take the best practices that we've developed here with AWS, how do we translate those best practices into either a new location that we're going to roll out or an acquisition that perhaps we've done in that country. I think the support that we've gotten from AWS is, around, a lot of the introductions to those country leaders to get mind share, right? And then helping us map out what those organizations look like in the UK. And the UK is a much more mature market, right? So, a lot of those, the things that AWS has helped us with are, really getting to the right people to move fast, to accelerate those efforts that we're doing. And hopefully we leverage some of the programs to help us do that as well. But it's been, again, a collaborative, approach to how we expand. But we do see, as you said, some of those companies coming into the United States to kind of do the same thing. We're in Singapore, we're in the UK, we're in Ireland. We have a whole bunch of locations within India, South America. I think when you think of the EU and Europe, that's a little more challenging, right? I think a lot of US companies land in the UK, language, mature, it's a mature country around cloud, so I think that makes it easier. But I would say leverage everything you can possibly leverage about the relationships to help you gain relevance quicker.
Yeah, and I think that from this perspective, we are providing global programs, which is definitely helping. I see when this is happening, partners like you are pretty fast in implementing because you can replicate most of the things that you have done in the US, also in other countries. Likewise is happening when partners are going to the US, for example. Of course, as you said, we need a go-to-market that is local. This is super important because there is a cultural aspect as well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, one of the things is one of our offerings is our Prism, it's a FinOps, but it's an optimization managed services offering. And that it was very easy for us to replicate that in other countries, right? As a starting point. And for us, the fact that sellers could understand that quicker than thinking about an entire modernization or an application refactoring or something like that. It did help accelerate that in the other countries. So find something, again, that you can focus on. Don't boil the ocean and be laser focused on it. And execute like you've never executed before.
Okay, and I like the fact to be laser focused, so really pick up the battle and pick up the expertise and then replicate.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I would ask the last question, so hopefully Chris is not listening to us, but I would say if you were Chris Sullivan for a day, So what would you change in the AWS partner programs?
In the AWS Partner Program, wow, I think what I've seen over the past 2 years is this tremendous transformation within AWS around what a good channel program looks like, and how partners are critical to scale for everybody. So I think I would continue to push the envelope there with building out more partner programs, thinking about partner profitability, thinking about the things that will help partners accelerate. And then I would make sure that the field sellers, compensation plans are well aligned with partnering, that there's not any disadvantage for them to engage a partner. I think those would be the two things that I'd have him focus on. And he'll probably knock me out after this, but he is a lot taller than me. So I think those two things.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thanks a lot. So before thanking, I would like Chris to welcome you back on stage. I don't know if you have maybe any closing question for Chris.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
No.
No, I think the story is a great one, and the reason I like it and the reason that we really wanted Chris's participation is, it hasn't been flawless.
No.
Figuring this out, yeah. Right? And in the work that it takes to lean in, in total transparency, Chris and I met with his CEO, COO, and CRO this morning with Sean Coyle, the PDM, to talk about, okay, what else are we going to do? What is next? How do we continue to improve? And these are some of the topics that we continue to focus on. And as I said earlier, I wish that I could just tell everybody, hey, do these 3 things and the cloud will make it rain, I guess, right? But
yeah. It's not static, right?
No.
It's continuous. We did a lot of do something, measure, pivot, right? Because you're constantly trying to turn the dial to change the organization. And I think our customers are going through the same thing as well.
And for us, a lot of the conversations I have with partners, they'll come up with a great idea, a great strategy, a great solution or something, and they'll want to experiment with it, and we're all about that. So we love the experimentation side of things, and let's put it into play, but let's not leave it out there for a year. Let's put it into play, let's test it, let's validate it, let's see what customers say, let's see what the feedback is and the adoption is, and if not, let's try something different, right? We can slow that down, pull that off the shelf, and go try something else, and I think we do that in our relationships as well, right? Yeah. We try to go to market activity. Maybe we jointly funded something to raise customer awareness. Hey, we didn't like the results. We do something else and we get explosive results, right? So it's very much dependent on it's dependent on a lot of things, but the results can vary. But having we love our LPs, right? A bias for action to try the new thing and to experiment and to be creative, but measure it continuously. And don't belabor the point if we're not successful, and continue to make adjustments so we improve. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna based on time, I'm gonna skip the last slide where I recap everything because I think we've had a great discussion. I really appreciate the question and answer. Thank you, Chris and Vittorio, for joining us. And everybody enjoy the rest of the show, and make sure you see my boss's keynote tomorrow. All right? Super important. Thank you.